We're being told that the big house, they've summoned him to answer some questions, and which invariably are those?
Oh, I strongly believe that everybody will try to ask him a question. And there are a lot of things. For me, one of the major issues I want us to be looking at is the voter register, because it seems to be bloated. If you look at the census, 2010 census, we are told that the country is virtually growing around 2.6% per annum. And then our population is supposed to be about 24. So if you have a voter register which is about 14 million, then clearly it tells you, more so when 18 years and below, 50% of the population is 18 years and below, then clearly it tells you that the voter register is bloated, because you're expecting it to be around 12 million. So if it's about 14 million, there might be a problem with the register. So we might have to look at how to make sure these things don't happen. I think that when that is done, to put a check virtually on everybody, and that's one area I think that we need to look at it. The second thing also has to do with this issue of limited registration. Limited registration is supposed to include new voters, especially those who are now 18 years. But most of the time what happens is that we don't do enough public education, apart from just putting out the announcement that it will be done from this period to this period. We don't do enough public education. I think that the Electoral Commission is not doing proper public education. So what happens is that when people even go there to register, they tend to lump up in one area, and then there's a problem. People need to be educated and told that, look, if you are staying in this area, this is the polling station number you have to use when you are registering, so that when they apportion them to the various polling stations during election time, don't be a lot of over a long queue for people to do their normal voting. Otherwise, it creates a lot of tension. And then, thirdly, one area I also think that we need to also take a critical look at it is the issue of underage registration. And I feel that the Electoral Commission will have to look at that very critically and make sure a lot of people who are underage do not register. These are things that I think we need to look at.
One of the concerns raised, and this received a lot more consensus among other political parties, is the subject of what we use in voting. That is is a card. What would distinguish you being a Ghanaian or a non-Ghanaian, and what qualifies you to vote or not to vote, not necessarily what is spelled out in the Constitution. And so the concern also raised more was about the use of the National Health Insurance card for registration and the other means of registration that have been stipulated in the law. As a member of Parliament, somebody who has gone through an election, do you think that, well, these are serious concerns? For example, I'm going to register with the National Health Insurance.
Let me just, Honorable...
Also touch on some of the things.
Yeah, we just ended an elections. And this is not the register that we used in 1992, 1996, 2000, or maybe 2008.
This is an updated register.
This is an updated register. And for me, somebody telling me that the register is bloated or something like that.
You don't believe it?
I don't believe it.
Especially when we went through the court and during the proceedings.
Exactly.
Even though the verdict may be otherwise, but during the proceedings, the public would have had cause of concern, particularly to worry about some of the responses that were given by the Electoral Commission's representative, who was in the witness box. That also seemed to suggest that, well, there were some double registrations, and even some pictures were not matching names in there in terms of what their sexes were, etc. Those are issues that the party need to iron out.
Exactly. We are all human, and sometimes there are some errors that you need to correct.
These are elections.
I'm coming. I'm just making someone. So it is good that the chairman of the Electoral Commission is appearing before Parliament. Like Honorable said, everybody would want to ask him a question. But for me, we having, the belief that the register is bloated or something like that.
You don't, is it you personally or you think your party?
I'm entitled to,
Definitely.
I don't know whether you get me right. We have some challenges.
Fantastic, I get
We
you.
have some challenges. And I believe at the end of the day, those challenges will be addressed. And I can confidently tell you that, even if those challenges are addressed, at the end of the day, if elections are held, the loser will still have some kind of, issues on it. So it is good that the Electoral Commission chairman is being invited, and this is the right time.
As a politician,
yeah.
Do you think that the concerns being raised, that due to the disagreement that came up following the presidential elections that were convened back in 2012, for us to go forward, we need to move on a very clean slate? And so those calls for the register to be sieved is the best way to go.
Yeah, the elections were held in a clean slate, I should say, because at the end of the day, we went to a polls, we all voted. Honorable was elected through that polls. I don't know myself, I was elected through that polls. The president was elected through that polls. We all had, polling agents, and believe me, during the registration period, we had, polling station executives who were there for all the parties. So for someone to tell me that maybe those challenges that came as a result of, the elections, a party not satisfied, moving to court, for me, it's something that has never happened. And then, it is deepening our democratical, system. I don't have a problem with that. But for them to say maybe as if, the elections were being held with a bloated register or something like that, I don't agree with that. We have challenges. Let's sit and then address those challenges. Those some challenges that happened maybe as a result of the register. Let's address those issues. But I know that at the end of the day, issues that will come up are going to be some minor issues.
You see, what I gave out was just the statistics, but I want to let him understand one thing. In my own constituency, Takrady, those who were challenged, okay, and they were declared null and void, still found their names in the register. We have to be vigilant.
And they're still there.
So we had to go to the Electoral Commission officer and got all those names physically cancelled in the register that were put at the polling station for voting. I just want to give you a typical example. They found their names back in the register. We had to. So all those registers that were assigned to the polling station in Takrady, we had to see the red marks, because we insisted that those ones were not supposed to be part of the register, because they had gone through the challenge process and were taken out. They were supposed to be taken out, but when the register came 2 days to the time for the election to be held, they were in. So
with pictures.
So yes. So sometimes when we talk about these things, I just didn't want us to debate it as if we are still going back to the court. But
no, I just wanted us to the court, but it's a subject of worry for all the political parties. Yeah. That is why. But of course, we have various politicians within the parties who also have their own individual opinions. But on the subject of the register, how crucial is it, Mr. Dandoa, that we have a very clean register that is not a subject of dispute?
For me, all the political parties, we all participated in this registration exercise. It's not this registration exercise was not a situation whereby maybe one political party hijacked the whole issue. It was an issue we all participated with the EC. If somebody comes, there were forms. Somebody comes who he or she is not up to age. There was a challenge form, and after that we went through the register. We went through names and other things before the elections were held. So maybe, like Honorable said, that Takrady there were some challenges. In Karga, I knew there were no challenges because we had the opportunity, both parties, to sit with the Electoral Commission. We went through everything before the election, before the day of polls, and like he said, 2 days to the elections, they went through, and then those anomalies that existed were being cancelled. And it is good that we bring those issues at this particular moment so that we can go through, make the corrections and other things, so that at the end of the day, if a party wins, it wouldn't be an issue of going to court. It is going to be an issue of, you know.
So now you agree that at least
That is you know, I know the register is not bloated. That is my opinion.
I get your point.
That is my opinion.
I get your point.
It's not an old register. It's a register, a new register. And this is the first time Ghana we went biometric. And then we should understand, definitely, we would have some challenges. Beginning of everything, you will surely have some 1 or 2 challenges. And then as time goes on, you'll be abreast with all the issues. For instance, you know, there were situations somebody would go to the machine, put the fingerprints and other things.
It would not be verified.
Yeah, so all those things. And I want to believe that, you know, those were minor errors and other things. And at the end of the day, it is going to be corrected. And today that the EC chairman is going to appear before Parliament, anybody who has a question, you know, you can ask him, and then probably if maybe there was something you weren't satisfied with, probably, you know, he would have the opportunity to clear your mind. And then at the end of the day, the way forward there.
Mr. Oshidaku-Mensah, how do we move forward on the subject of the register? How do we go about cleaning it? Is it just we clean before we do the intermittent registrations, so to speak?
I think that.
So what, it will be displayed, or how would you want?
Yes, I think that would have been a good way going forward, because you need to make sure what you have is clean before you add on. Otherwise, you might have to do this one separately, and then after we finish with this one and we are sure this is correct, then we'll go and fix that one and add it up. Most of the time, I think that one of the biggest challenge has been government release of funds to the EC, and therefore their own processes tend to be mismanaged. Because if you're expecting money today to do something tomorrow, and you don't get the money tomorrow, but you get it maybe 3 weeks' time, it distorts you because a lot of things have to fit into the process. So I feel that the EC will have to either look at the way they do their things vis-a-vis government releases of money, or government will have to release the money so they can do their things properly. Because there's too much pressure usually on the EC to do the right thing within a short period of time. And I feel that they don't get the benefit of time. That's why a lot of these difficulties tend to come up. For instance, as we speak today, I hear they've not gotten money for even district assembly election. So if they are supposed to organize the election, say, in December, by the time they finish with this registration, audit the register, clean it up, they might not even have time to even clean the old one. So at the end of the day, you'll be using the old one, and that also creates a problem. We also know in this country as a fact, unless we want to lie to ourselves, that the district assembly election is not
non-partisan.
Yeah, we know it is not non-partisan. It is very partisan. Anybody who tells you it is non-partisan is only deceiving Ghanaians. It is not.
It is very partisan.
It is very partisan, and it is time that we actually properly open it up for that purpose, so that people can fight for it, people can bring the best candidate they have, and it can even be a training field for national politics. So because of all that processes, what we tend to have is that we end up using the same register for the national political partisan election, and it creates another problem. You mentioned the issue of this national health insurance being used for that purpose. You know, the problem is that national health insurance does not depend on nationality for you to get it.
Residents.
Yes, only residents, and that creates a problem because a lot of foreigners are in our country, and some of them tend to participate in the politics that we do. Okay, and we need to find a way to stop that from happening. Because if you go to the UK, you just don't go and vote because you just visited the UK. So I feel that, as a matter of fact, we need to tighten up all these loose ends and make sure that even when somebody is even bringing, say, a national national insurance card, there should be other measures that will check whether the person is a national or not before he's allowed to vote. Merely asking people to challenge, I think that is very weak because of what I've experienced in Takrady, where people were challenged They were not supposed to register because they were deemed to be foreigners. They went through the challenge process. They were rejected and told that, look, you can vote, yet their name still appeared in the register. And it doesn't have to take a political party person to make sure the EC does the right thing. It is the EC's core responsibility to do it. In fact, if the EC can't do it, it's supposed to be a criminal offense against the EC people. If they can't do their work well, because that's what we pay them for. Okay? But this is Ghana. If the EC doesn't work, somebody will tell you because your agent is there, you're supposed to have done it. But the core function is for EC. That's what we pay them. That's why we spend so much money of our national revenue to get them doing certain kind of things. So I strongly believe that we need to tighten that corner because it's becoming a political problem. Because with time, people might come to the station with that ID card and will not be allowed. We also understand the issues. Sometimes people generally don't have a national ID. Like if you are just 18, how many people just turn 18 and have a driver's license? It doesn't happen anyway. Or
a passport.
A passport. It doesn't happen because Ghanaians, we don't plan the way other people plan. If I want to travel, I'll take my passport maybe when I'm 18, when I'm maybe 20, I can travel. No, wait till the week we want to travel. That's the week we want to get our passport. So that's our culture. It has become part of our culture. So we need to look at these issues and tighten the loose ends. Because if you're able to do that, then those who just have a national ID, a national insurance card because of health issues, will be able to use it to register. But at least we should put in certain safeguards to make sure it's not abused. That's very, very important.
How should we go about it? Audits of the register.
Yeah. Looking at things like my colleague said, EC, they have challenges when it comes to financing. And for me, this is not the first time that they have those challenges. Since 2004, 2008, 2012 and other things, those things exist. And it is good that, we try to release funds to EC at the right time so that they can take up the right program at the right time. So looking at things, I know very well that with the district assembly elections, that is just around the corner. We'll go to the elections without any, problems with regards to the register and other things. Government is on course, and then he telling me that as at yesterday, he had the information that I don't have any information with regards to monies being released to EC. I don't know whether monies have been released to them or not, but I know very well that the EC will get their funding.
The point is whether they'll get it on time. For example, if you have a project you have to do and it's a budget item, it's a line item, you don't do it on time, it shifts the completion date. That's the whole point.
No, you see, that is what I just said. I don't know whether they've not gotten their funds or not. Maybe from here I would also try and then check and then.
Well, according to the report, they've not.
Yeah, and I know they will get it, and then probably
they'll get it. But when will they get it eventually and do the work?
No, they have probably brought in their proposal, and sometimes when you bring in your proposal, it has to be looked at. You can't just bring it in. Then maybe you expect if he brings 3 million, then maybe it has a process. It has to go through some process before the Ministry of Finance, the approval is being made. And I believe they are in that process. And at the moment the approval is made, they will get their funds. It was the same thing prior to the elections. People that EC didn't, they didn't get it. And the chairman of the EC came out and then, made it categorically clear to Ghanaians that funding was given to them.
I believe many of the parties will have a problem with what you are saying because even prior to the election, ideally they should have had even the voters register ready. The party should have known through IPAC whether the machines for verification, etc., were way ready. A lot of issues happened prior to 2012, so we don't just have to resolve it. The point is that I think the reason why we're having all this discussion is to make sure that as stakeholders, these issues don't recur.
Yeah, that is what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, these issues are going to be resolved, and then we'll go into a district assembly election. Like Honorable, which is going to have a clean register. I know the register is not bloated, but he's telling me that the register is bloated. Would go into the elections with a clean register, and then no party would probably.
Okay, I have to end the discussion, and I have had in the studio Kwabena Afari-Gyan, a member of Parliament for Takoradi. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you too.
And also Al Hassan Swa Lihu Dandawa is a member of Parliament for Karaga. And thanks for joining me. It's been the AM Talk. Next, we have a discussion with Mr. Kojo Sedegan with the UNDP office here in Ghana. And we'll be speaking on post-2015 after, as a country and the developing world, we have not been in a position to meet the MDGs, that is the Millennium Development Goals. What do we have to do? How do we make sure that the subject of the mortality rates, the under-5 mortalities, the poor sanitation and environmental conditions we find ourselves, our inability to provide enough water to our people, all these benchmarks are met, even though we've not been able to do that as far as the Millennium Development Goals are concerned. We're taking a break. When we come back, we have all those issues of development discussed next. Do stay on.